Hey guys, welcome into the live masterclass tonight. We are talking tonight all about summertime kids, keeping them happy, healthy, and hydrated. So I'm gonna go over, a couple things just really quickly. I thought these would be helpful tips for any of you guys who are either moms dealing with kids, or you're looking after kids, or you know somebody who is looking after kids and you want to give them some tips. So most of us are moms, so I'm going to talk a little bit about hydration, a little bit about nutrition, and then a little bit about natural products. So from everything from like bug spray to sunscreen kind of thing. So what's the biggest thing that happens in the summer for most of us is that we get out of a routine, right? That's kind of how it goes. So one thing that I was going to say is when you're looking at the food, let's start with nutrition. So when you're looking at what kind of food to feed the kids, generally speaking, we're going to be out and about more often. We're going to be feeding our kids a little bit more junk, and that's okay. But what we want to do is keep in mind that if we have like a real baseline, whatever you want to call it, standard or whatever of the types of foods that we're cutting up ahead of time, that we're having in the fridge still, prep a lot of your fruits and veg so that they're ready to go and easy to grab, because somebody's going to call and you're going to be out the door and you're going to be at a play date, or a bunch of people are going to stop over, and then you're going to end up hosting. And when you have that stuff in your fridge or in your cupboards and available, then that's what you end up serving, right? So the easiest way to do it would be to get a huge Tupperware container full of fresh vegetables that you're cutting up. And then if you think about doing that like maybe once every 4 days kind of thing, then you can plan your vegetables accordingly. So the ones that kind of start to go bad a little bit sooner, maybe you do those first, and then the ones that can last longer, like the celery and the carrots and everything like that, you can do them later in the week. That's if you can only get to the grocery store once a week. But one of the things that I find is that I tend to start letting my kids have more treats, right? And they really just don't need the sugar. And we forget sometimes that treats to kids are whatever we make them. Have you ever heard of somebody tricking their kids into like the ice floats for a treat? There was a dad that we knew that gave his kids ice floats after supper for treats, and it was literally ice water with ice cubes floating in them. But they were little and they didn't know any different, so they thought it was a treat. Anyway, so what I'm saying is we create the treat for the kids, right? So if we're always feeding them 5-cent candies, or we're always feeding them ice cream, or we're always feeding them popsicles with a ton of like artificial food coloring and a whole bunch of sugar in them, then that's what a treat is to them. Whereas if we're feeding them things that you can take fruit, put it on a skewer, dip the top one in chocolate, or add a marshmallow, and then they think it's a treat. But they're eating all that fruit at the same time, which is still a treat. So just kind of stepping outside the box, thinking of ways that we can create those treats for them still. So we can have the old classics like ants on a log. So you can have celery with, peanut butter or sun butter or almond butter with some, you can either do like chocolate chips, or you can do raisins or whatever. So don't forget that yes, you're giving your kids a little bit of sugar with the raisins or the chocolate chips, but they're gonna eat it, and you've got protein in that nut or seed butter that's also going with some good healthy, obviously, fiber from, and a little bit of water from the celery. So you wanna be just thinking outside the box in terms of like, hey, what kind of snacks can I make that are gonna be treats for the kids? They're not gonna feel like they're not getting anything fun, but like that will still add some health to their day, right? So those are a couple of ideas. I also pulled up some really good recipe ideas from, there's a page that I follow called Super Healthy Kids, and I'll post them afterwards so that you guys have like those recipe ideas. But there's just so many cool things that we can do with fruits and veg for kids. So just like pick one or two that you think would be a good idea, and then next time you're at the grocery store, just make sure you throw all those fruits and veg into your cart. Because if you have it, you're gonna take the time to do it. But on that note, I am 36 weeks pregnant, so I am like hyper focused right now on the fact that there are certain times of day where I'm the most productive, and then the rest of the day I'm just like, oh my gosh, after 3 o'clock, like I'm not gonna be prepping fruits and veg. So think about when in your week or when in your day you're like the most go productive, and you can get that stuff done and prepped ahead of time, because prep really is the key for this stuff. Having it on hand in your fridge is number one. And then number two is like finding the time when you actually will enjoy chopping it all up while you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook or a, whatever, something that's entertaining you at the same time. That's where I love multitasking. And I think so many of us you know, right now I'm listening to, this is so off topic, but right now I'm listening to Girl Stop Apologizing by Rachel Hollis, which I think everybody should listen to. I think it's fabulous. But it's so, you know, when you're folding laundry or you're chopping up veg or you're prepping dinner or whatever, like throw something like that on so that you get something at the same time for you, right? It's almost like a little bit of self-care at the same time or something. Anyways, I digress. So that's like a little bit about nutrition. So when you're packing to go out for the day or for picnics or for whatever, or even when you're shopping and getting things into your house, just think of, hey Amber, just think about having like lots of fruits, lots of fresh veg, really good healthy sources of protein. So not too much in the way of processed stuff and not too much in the way of artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, artificial colors, and then whole grains, obviously. So, I mean, we're all going to feed our kids chips at some point, I'm sure, during the summer, and it's okay to do that. I think that when we make sure that they've had something good in their bellies first, that's the best thing we can do, so that when they do get to the treats, then it's just a little bit and away they go and they run off again, right? Also, if you want to make really healthy dips, kids love dips. So you can make whatever kind of flavors and dishes that they're into, get them that, and then get some baked chips or some plain, you know, corn tortilla chips or something like that, and they think it's fun and it's a dip, so then they crush it, right? So another trick is if you're doing like a cheesy kind of a dip, just make sure the cheese is just a little bit on top instead of all the way through, because kids, they don't really care at the end of the day. They'll eat it. They just want a little bit of cheese on top. What else? Oh, make sure you have grab and go snacks, because you know that you're going to be in a hurry, right? At some point you're going to be in a hurry. So bake your own muffins. That's one of the easiest things. I mean, literally muffins take like 20 minutes to make. They're really not a big deal, but you can control the ingredients, which is huge. Do not buy store-bought muffins. They are just crap. Like, read the ingredients if you want to, but they're garbage. Just grab a really good healthy, if you want a good resource to go to for baking, minimalistbaker.com, or just Google minimalist baker, any kind of muffins, and she's got amazing healthy recipes on there. And literally, like, when we're able to like cook our own or bake our own muffins, cookies, granola bars, all that kind of stuff, it just really helps us control what's going into our kids, and we can add the healthy fats, the healthy proteins, and the healthy fibers that they need without so much crap sugar and salt and stuff in it. So that's a good one. But then also, guys, don't be afraid to do a little bit of research about what kind of healthy, like granola bars are generally crap. They're just pure sugar and they're spiking the glycemic index because they're so processed. So do a little bit of homework. Reach out to me if you want some ideas about this stuff, but do a little homework on finding some protein bars that are good for kids, so they actually keep them full for an hour or two, instead of a granola bar, which is just gonna like barely get their sugar levels spiked and then they're hungry again in a half an hour, right? So those things, protein is the thing that will, it's like the log on the fire. If you have a fire and you put a piece of paper on top, that's what sugar is. So like sugar, like cereal in the morning, sugar cereals or granola bars, things like that, they're basically like taking a little piece of paper and throwing it on the fire, and it just goes, right? It's like a quick flash, and that's what's happening with the glycemic index spiking inside of your kid, which creates a stress response in the body or an adult. But protein is the thing that's like putting a log onto the fire. So it's going to be a slow, long burn, right? So you're going to have hours of heat instead of just a quick flash. So that's something really important to keep in mind. And protein is so easy to add to things like muffins and cookies and things like that, because you can do it with hemp seeds or chia seeds or flax or oatmeal, or like there's so many different, you can get powders you can add to your stuff. You can add nuts, you can add seeds, like there's a lot of different ways. And in order to figure out how much protein, hey Crystal, in order to figure out how much protein you're actually getting in a muffin, you just figure out, okay, this batch is gonna make 12 muffins. I always make a double batch because who doesn't want to freeze muffins if you're going to the trouble anyway? So just figure out, okay, well, this batch makes 12 muffins, and if I want it to be 5 grams or 8 grams or 10 grams of protein in each one of these things, and then just figure out how many tablespoons you need to add to your whole muffin batch in order to get that much protein into them. So for kids, you're gonna probably wanna be in the 5 to 8 gram range for a snack so that it keeps them full for an hour or two, right? So those are easy ways. Also, when we're reducing the sweeteners, we just talked about this today, a girlfriend of mine in the backyard. when you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar that you're consuming, because don't forget that our taste buds turn over every 12 to 14 days. So we can actually retrain our taste buds and what we like. And same thing goes for kids, because if you're feeding your kids tons of sugary stuff, then you can't switch them in one day and expect that it's going to be easy, right? So you want to slowly curb that. And a way that you can do that is by slowly reducing the amount of sweetener that you put into your muffins or whatever you're serving them. But one way that's really easy to be able to have like a healthier version, even though it still tastes sweet, is fruit-based muffins. So for example, if you're making like banana chocolate chip muffins, those are gonna taste really sweet because bananas are naturally super sweet. So you can reduce, like you can usually take most recipes and cut that sugar in half if it's a banana-based muffin. And then the next time you can even reduce it even further, and then just figure out, okay, well, if I want to have 1 teaspoon, which is 4 grams, 5 depending on who you ask, of sugar in each one of these muffins, then how much do I need for a whole tray of a whole batch of muffins? And then just work your way backwards, and then just play with it a little bit. Try a couple different ways, couple different types of fruits and different things like that you can add. And that's a great way to be able to start controlling those ingredients, controlling the sweetness, and then slowly backing it off. Reese and I are at the point now where we don't like going and eating other people's muffins because they just taste so sweet to us. It's almost like, you know how you say like, oh, it's like sicky sweet, like it's just too sugary. But our kids are totally fine eating the muffins that we make because that's what they think is normal. So don't forget, guys, I preach this all the time, but like, don't go for perfect, go for a new normal and slowly make changes over time, right? Crystal, I don't know if you want to jump in on any ideas for muffins or healthy grab and go snacks for the summer, but like hummus is another great one that you can either buy on the go, obviously, or you can make it yourself. It's super easy. You can literally throw a can of chickpeas, some tahini, which is like a sesame seed paste, lemon, salt and pepper, and any kind of fresh herbs. I don't add garlic because I can't do garlic, but you could add horseradish for a kick if you have a garlic problem like me, or you can add garlic, or you can make any kind of like roasted red pepper. You can do olive, you can do lemon dill, you can do any kind of flavoring in a hummus, and then the kids just crush it and eat it, and it's really good for them, and it's so much better than ranch dip. So much better. Anyways, okay, so hydration. Let's move on. So hydration, obviously we all know what being dehydrated is because you get a little too much sun, you're out in the heat, and then you start to feel faint, right? So one of the keys though, that when it comes to kids, is get that water into them early in the day. So you know how sometimes you'll crush a few cups of coffee and then you don't feel like drinking water in your day? Like personally, you, because I do that sometimes. So, but have you ever noticed how if you start with a glass of water, hey Jack, thanks for jumping on. Have you ever noticed that if you start your day with like a big glass of water that you actually are a lot more thirsty and you end up consuming a lot more water during the day? So kids are the same way. If they get juice first thing in the morning, or if they haven't drank anything for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 hours when they get up, the chances of them getting like a good start on their hydration is actually pretty slim. So you want to make sure, even if you're adding a little bit of fruit juice or something to their water, get it in them early. With our kids, we do about a quarter of the apple juice, not from concentrate, in their water bottles, and they'll crush the whole thing pretty much before breakfast. And then they've got that whole thing of water into them with a little bit of juice, and then now they're like into it. So now I can usually get them to drink 2 or 3 water bottles of just water because their bodies are already going. So I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but like if you crush a couple cups of coffee, you generally don't want to drink water afterwards, or I rarely do. So it's the same thing with the little kid's body. So especially if you know it's going to be a super hot day, make sure you get some, well, I think that's just part of a routine, right? Make sure you're trying to get water into them early in the day anyways. So you say, Crystal says, my Will is our muffin man. Banana, chia seed, ground flax instead of eggs, me too. Crushed walnuts and half organic coconut sugar. Yeah, beautiful. You can do that. You can do a little bit of maple syrup. You can do whatever you want. That's a great recipe. I do banana with hemp hearts, chia, flax instead of eggs. I never do eggs. That's why I post vegan recipes all the time, is because we don't do milk and eggs in most of our stuff, just because I'm super intolerant to it. And now it turns out that Rhett has a slight allergy to milk, which is kind of a pain, so he gets those like purple shiners under his eyes when he has dairy. which is sucks. But anyways, that's how it goes sometimes in life. And Rylan is allergic to eggs, so we don't do eggs at all here. But I already had an intolerance, so I already knew how to bake that way. But yeah, flax, ground flax is awesome in recipes for the binder, and it's good for you, obviously. You can get the big, huge bag from Costco of the organic flax, like ground flax, for super cheap too. Costco has some great staples for your cupboards if you're looking to put some healthy stuff in there. What else? Okay, so for hydration, we kind of all know this, but then I think when it comes to kids, we kind of forget sometimes. It's like avoid refined sugar, obviously, because it spikes your glycemic index, which literally gives you no energy after a very short period of time. And also it creates a stress response in your body, which your body does not need when it's already trying to deal with like a different kind of heat and temperature and activity level than we're used to and all these other things. And then one other thing would be to like make sure you're really aware of how much caffeine your kids have, because a lot of people will be like, oh, it's summer, they can have pop. And it's like, sure, kids can have pop, it's no big deal. But just remember that caffeine is also a diuretic, and so it's going to actually pull water out of the body. So does sugar. Like sugar is definitely not helping with hydration. But so when it comes to things like Coke or iced tea and things like that, like just try to curb that or reduce it or completely eliminate it, and just have them pick a different choice. Or you can make your own iced tea with herbal tea bags, and then you don't even have to think about it. And then you can add a little bit of sweetener. You can add some essential oils if you want to boost the flavor. I like to make homemade lemonade. So then you just squeeze a whole bunch of lemons, you add the water, a little bit of sweetener, and then a couple of essential oils to, again, boost some flavor. And it's neat because you can actually kind of trick the taste buds into thinking it's sweeter than it is. And also you can even add some apple cider vinegar, like unpasteurized stuff, just to give it that health boost too, like with the lemons. Do you guys have any additions for Crystal, if you're still on? Anything to add for like healthy drinks for hydration? Or what do you guys usually do for hydration? I think the comments are a little bit behind, so I'm going to keep going. Okay, so next we're going to get into the miscellaneous side of products and natural things to have on hand. So when it comes to like bug spray, I don't know if there's anybody that likes the smell of bug spray, like the DEET chemical stuff. It's gross. Makes you stink, makes you not want to go to bed smelling like that. Kind of creeps me out when you think about, because I've learned so much about what goes on our body goes into our body. And I don't know how much you guys have researched about that stuff, but it's not good to put chemicals on your body. Toxic chemicals gotta go. So what are some of like the easiest ways? Crystal, I think we talked about this a little bit last week. Some of the easiest bug sprays are essential oils based. You can add into water with a spray bottle. But also the best tip that I got last week was add witch hazel so that it's heavier, so that it lasts longer. So you can do a combination. We used to do lavender and citronella. There's another blend called TerraShield that has a few different blends added to it. Crystal, I know that you said that you had a different blend too. There's a bunch of different ones that the bugs just do not like the smell of, and so sometimes they'll even land and then they'll just leave. Like, it's funny to watch them. But then you smell like a freaking dream, and then you can go to bed not worried about it. And then you can spray it on as much as you want, and nobody's like trying to hold their breath and avoid like the cloud of DEET, right? So a really easy one for adding health and having a natural solution on hand would be for bug spray with some essential oils and water and witch hazel mixed in a spray bottle. And I got the spray bottle from the dollar store. It doesn't have to be fancy, but that stuff goes a long way too. So bug bites, same thing. Instead of buying Afterbite, you can buy you can have like a little roller bottle. You can make it up yourself with some coconut oil, fractionated coconut oil, so it doesn't harden up. And then a couple of drops of a couple different essential oils. You just roll it right on. You can keep it in your bag, and then it's like a healthy, non-toxic version of Afterbite. Same thing with cuts, scrapes, bruises, bonks, all that stuff. Now, Rhett has scraped his whole forehead already this summer. It's only June. He's got elbows, he's got knees, he got the side of his body somehow the other day, and he had like straight up road rash across his whole forehead. So when stuff like that happens, what do you need to do? Well, first you want to disinfect it. So what I do is I just wash it out with a little bit of warm water and like a Q-tip, just very gently. And then I apply a little bit of fractionated coconut oil with some tea tree in it. You can use geranium. So just a drop of essential oil. Lavender really helps promote antibacterial natural properties and healing. Coconut oil itself has good stuff in it as well. And then basically your kids are gonna get hurt and they're gonna scrape themselves. That's just how it is. But it's nice to have something on hand where you know that it's gonna go straight to the source. It's going to help promote the natural healing process of the body, and it's also going to reduce the scarring and the healing time. So those are kind of handy things to have around in your cupboard. But again, for a lot of people, you gotta have this stuff handy, like in your home. Otherwise, it's just an idea, right? You can Google these natural solutions ideas, which is what I used to do all the time. And then I'd be like, oh, but I don't have that. Oh, but I don't have that. So if you wanna know how to get your hands on some more of these essential oils and natural solutions, then book a wellness consult with me and I'll just help you figure out what you actually need for your family and where you're at, so that you actually have that medicine cabinet handy for all this kind of stuff. The other thing I wanted to touch briefly on was sunscreen. So when it comes to sunscreen, we are all used to having yummy smelling chemical sunscreens, right? So those are toxic sunscreens, and basically what happens is there's certain ingredients in them that get absorbed into the bloodstream and act like hormone disruptors. And so especially in kids, that is not something that we want to be screwing around with. So it's a really easy switch in terms of like small changes that add health to switch to a mineral-based sunscreen. Now, Crystal and we talked about this before, but it's like, okay, if you're gonna switch to mineral-based, how am I gonna find one that doesn't make my kids look like Casper the ghost? But what happens is mineral-based sunscreen, you know how diaper cream is made of zinc, like Zincofax? So it's like a similar, I mean, that's literally the same ingredient that they use in mineral sunscreen. And so that's why it's white, is because it's literally like the diaper cream stuff. It's just like formulated a little bit differently. But Crystal, I know you found one, if you can drop the name of it in there for everybody. And then I've heard of some really good ones. I personally always use the Arbonne one because I was representing them and I really like it. So one tube, it's expensive, but one tube lasts me at least an entire season with my kids and they've never burned with it. And I don't find it super white. Some of them are really pasty, but I know you just found one that you really liked. So if you can drop the name of it. You just said your kids are good with almond milk, oat milk water, with a drop of lemon essential oil. Oh yeah, that's awesome. You found juice boxes that are basically watered down. I wish that I had those. Juice boxes are not healthy. Yeah, I love that. You get them once in a while for the family parties. They don't think other drinks exist yet. They think pop is beer and is for adults only. Nice. Well, my kids like to try to drink beer whenever somebody puts it down and isn't watching it. So I don't think that's gonna help with that classification, but they just know that pop's like not really a thing for them. But I love the fact that they're starting to do juice boxes that are watered down. So much better. Because really, there aren't too many kids that need 34 grams of sugar, which is like pretty common in juices, fruit juices. But they're made from concentrate, which means they take the fruit, they boil it all down, it turns into sugar water, and then they re-add water or other flavors. And then that's what your kids are drinking. So it's technically just sugar again. Okay, so drop the sunscreen name in there if you can remember that. I can also drop, like there's the EWG, the Environmental Working Group. They have a lot of good reviews on mineral-based sunscreens and things like that. So you can go in and take a look, and a lot of those are just available online. And who doesn't love to shop online? Like, it's so easy. You just go in there, which reminds me, I gotta get that deodorant you told me about, Crystal. Okay, so what else? Scrapes, cuts, bruises. Bruises are easy because you can put stuff on them now. So essential oils are like having a plant-based medicine cabinet, basically. So that's why I talk about them a lot. But yeah, bruises, you can cut down the healing time on them, especially if they're on the face. Oh my gosh, and then you don't look like such a bad parent. Me. Okay, the only other thing I wanted to touch on, I want to keep this short and sweet because I know everybody's probably enjoying the weather. It's a beautiful day here today. The only other thing was sleep. So in the summer, obviously we have a tendency to let our kids stay up way later. So that's fine if you have the kids that are at an age or they're the personality that actually will sleep in later if you let them go to bed later. But my kids still get up at the same time every single day. And like Rylan, there's no chance he's gonna nap during the day. He's 5.5. And Rhett, he will, but half the time I don't have time to go put him for a nap. Like today, we were out playing at our friend's house, so we just didn't nap. Then he falls asleep at 5:30 on the way home. So then I'm scrambling to try to like shake him and wake him up on the way home while I'm driving home. Anyway, so in terms of sleep, I mean, we got to give ourselves a little grace in terms of routines and things like that. But one thing that would help big time, because Reese and I think a lot of us love to barbecue later in the day in the summertime, just because it's so beautiful out and it's so light out. So maybe think about things like feeding your kids early, even though you're going to eat like the main dinner later. And try to keep some sort of routine. I mean, we all battle this one, right? Another thing you can do is when they go to sleep, just put some, because they're so jacked up from the day, we diffuse lavender in their room, and it usually helps them like calm down, because that's what lavender does in the body. And you can even rub a little bit on the bottom of their feet if you wanted, but it just like signals to the brain that it's time to shut her down, it's time to calm, time to find some peace, and time to go, what's that book called? Go to sleep. Anyways, okay, so we covered a little bit of nutrition, hydration, some natural solutions you can have on hand for bug spray, sunscreen, all that kind of stuff, and then a little bit of sleep. So hopefully that gives you guys some tips. Like I said, I found some really awesome recipes. One of them has like 20 dessert recipes or something that are healthy for kids, and then one of them has 30 different recipes for healthy summertime snacks or something. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, they were awesome, so I thought I would share them. So I'll drop those into some comments, like separate posts, and then you guys can search them if you ever want to look for like healthy snacks or healthy dessert or whatever. So hopefully that was helpful. Guys, if you were here on the replay, please let me know you were here. And like I said earlier, if you want to get some of these natural solutions into your house so that you have them on hand this summer, then just reach out to me. We can book a quick wellness consult and just chat, and I can help you get set up for whatever you need. So have a great night, guys, and we will talk soon. Cheers.